Here's your uncomfortable truth of the day. Who was the most fascist president, based on the actual definition of fascism, in modern history? So let's call it the last 100 years. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Fascism is authoritarian and characterized by a dictatorial leadership, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition. And that got me thinking for a second. Number one, this man authorized the arrest, detention, and forcibly put into camps American citizens based on their race. Anyone who is Japanese, even if they're American. Imagine if after 9/11, George Bush said, I want all Muslims and Arabs, Americans or not, rounded up and put in camps. Because we don't know who our enemy is right now. Did you know that FDR is responsible for the FCC? Do you know why? Because during World War II, the administration was not happy with independent news and radio not feeding American people the narrative that the American government wanted. They actually started limiting broadcast licenses for radio operators to 6 months. Number three, Supreme Court stacking. When FDR was rolling out his Green New Deal, the Supreme Court at the time was saying a lot of it was unconstitutional. They were saying, you can do this, but you have to go through Congress first. And so FDR proposed the ability to appoint up to 7 new justices. 1 justice added for every justice that was currently 70 years or older, because they wanted to lower the workload for somebody that age. So after a bunch of Supreme Court decisions saying that you have to go through Congress before you push these initiatives, whether they're good or bad, you still have to follow the rule of law. They went after and said, we are going to do where we add a justice for every justice over 70 years old. My administration, will add our own justice because we want to help offset the workload of these other justices. Y'all familiar with Executive Order 6102? This is the Gold Confiscation Act. FDR made an executive order that stated, every American citizen must turn in their gold bullion and coins to the federal government, or they will be fined up to equivalent of $1 million and sent to federal prison. This was a time when gold was still the currency. Notes, dollars, were just representations of gold, right? We still hadn't fully got off the gold standard yet. So you basically forced Americans to turn in their money or go to prison. Well, Stocky, that sounds kind of bad, but you're not telling the whole truth. They were told that they would get notes in return, IOUs, that they would get their gold back, or they would get cash equivalents, and they could always exchange it later on. Sure. Gold was about $24 per ounce. The U.S. government, FDR, signed Executive Order 6102 using the 100-year-old Trading with the Enemy or Foreign Adversaries Act as a way of doing it, whatever, and took everyone's gold. They immediately printed and devalued the dollar and raised the price of gold to $35 an ounce, which means the government could now print more money because gold that they owned was worth more. But guess what? All the money people got in return for their gold, they just lost 50% of their money. They forced American citizens under penalty of prison and $1 million fine. You have to turn in your actual currency, and we'll give you Federal Reserve notes or dollars in return. And within a year, the dollars they gave them lost 50% of their value. Give me your money, and I'm going to give you half of it back, or you go to prison. This is just 4 things. So if you look at the actual definition of fascist, no one in the last 100 years comes anywhere close to FDR. And this isn't, oh, well, see, got you classic liberals, you're a hero. No, this is just facts. If you take the actual definition of fascism and look at the actual things put in motion and put in place by a man, if I told you that this was all done by some dictator in some other country, you would be like, wow, that's a fucking fascist country. Actually, I should have started out this whiteboard right now. I should have started out the whiteboard by just telling you about what was happening and then told you who did it, and it would have blown your mind even more. But everyone is going to look at it. Now, all I'm saying is that we've also let history goes by. We forget what things are, what they were, and how things were in place. It's just an interesting thing, okay? I'm not telling you to hate FDR. I'm not minimizing any of the accomplishments, even though it was World War II that really technically got us out of everything. But I'm not minimizing that. I'm just saying we like to selectively forget history because it is there, but especially this one. This is the most important. Forget the whole FDR thing. about him being whatever. A lot of people don't know that this happened in America. And so two things are interesting from this. Number one, could the government do it again, right? And number two, would it actually be a good thing or remembered as a good thing? Because technically, even though we're off the gold standard, if the government were to confiscate all the gold the American people have and hold it, they then could use that against their debt. Their debt would be worth much less because they have much more value-sustained asset there. So again, as the price of gold goes up, it would lower their debt because they could pay off their debt and interest in an asset that's going up in value rather than dollars that's going down in value.